Welcome back, everyone. We're about to take a deep dive into ancient cosmology, but not just from one culture.
Oh no, we're going global this time.
We're going to be looking at excerpts from Cosmogenesis by Helena Blavatsky. She was a 19th century author and theosophist.
That's right, a real pioneer in exploring esoteric traditions. She was trying to, well, she claimed to unveil a hidden secret doctrine, kind of a universal philosophy that she believed underpinned all the ancient religions and wisdom traditions.
That's a bold claim. So, what kind of ancient cultures are we talking about here?
Oh, we're talking Egyptian, Hindu, Buddhist, even Chaldean cosmology. She saw connections everywhere.
Wow, that's a lot of ground to cover. So how does she even begin to tie all these different traditions together?
Well, one of the key things that fascinated Blavatsky was the concept of cycles in these traditions. She talks about Manvantaras and Yugas. These are, think of them as vast cosmic cycles of activity and rest.
Wait, so the universe is breathing,
Yeah.
expanding and contracting over ridiculously long periods.
Exactly. It's a pretty different view of time than the linear one we're used to, with a beginning, middle, and end.
Okay, so we're already dealing with a totally different perspective on time and the universe. But how do we even begin to understand these ancient ideas? It's like we need a secret decoder ring or something.
Well, Blavatsky believed that she believed that symbolism was key to understanding these ancient traditions. She saw symbolism as a language, really, for conveying profound truths about the universe and our place in it. It's not just about, pretty pictures or stories. There's a deeper meaning hidden beneath the surface.
So you're saying we need to learn how to read the symbols, like a secret code. Can you give us an example?
Sure, take the lotus flower, for instance. It pops up in so many different traditions, but it's not just a pretty image.
Yeah, okay, I get that. It's a symbol.
Yeah.
So what does it actually represent?
Well, Blavatsky connects the lotus to both spiritual and physical creation. It's like this unfolding of potential. It emerges from the mud, rises above the water, and then blossoms into this beautiful flower.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. It's like this journey from darkness to light, right?
Yeah.
But there's got to be more to it than that.
Right. Think about the lotus seed. It contains everything needed to create the entire plant. It's all there, pre-formed, waiting to unfold.
Wow, that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Right. Blavatsky saw this as evidence of pre-existing archetypes, like a blueprint for the universe. And the lotus isn't the only symbol with these layers of meaning. The serpent, for example, is another one that gets a lot of attention in Cosmogenesis.
Yeah, the snake. In a lot of cultures, it's seen as, kind of evil, right? Like a symbol of temptation or danger.
Exactly. And that's precisely the kind of misinterpretation that Blavatsky was pushing back against.
So what does the serpent represent in Cosmogenesis?
She emphasizes its connection to eternity, wisdom, and even regeneration. Think about how a snake sheds its skin. That's a powerful image of renewal, of cycles of life, death, and rebirth.
Oh, I see. It ties back into that cyclical view of time we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Okay, so we need to learn how to read between the lines, to see beyond the surface of these symbols, to understand what they're really conveying. This secret doctrine is starting to sound like a giant puzzle.
It definitely is. And one of the recurring pieces in that puzzle, one that appears in lots of these ancient traditions, is the idea of a sevenfold structure.
Sevenfold? Like what?
Well, she talks about a sevenfold structure in the universe, but also within us as humans.
Hold on. You're saying there's a connection between how the cosmos is structured and how we're built as humans. Now, that's interesting.
Right. Think of it this way. The universe, according to Blavatsky, is like this vast layered reality with 7 cosmic planes. And guess what? Humans, we're like mini versions of that structure.
So, the universe is this giant set of Russian nesting dolls, and we're one of the little ones inside.
That's a great way to visualize it. It's this idea of correspondence between the macrocosm, the universe, and the microcosm, us. It suggests this profound interconnectedness between everything.
Okay, that's starting to make sense. So what connects these 7 planes of the universe to the 7 principles within us?
Well, Blavatsky introduces this force she calls Fohat. And Fohat, well, it's hard to describe in simple terms. It's this dynamic creative energy that acts as a bridge between the spiritual and material realms.
So it's like the cosmic glue that holds everything together?
In a way, yeah. But it's also the driving force behind manifestation and evolution. It's what takes an idea and makes it a reality.
Okay, so that's Fohat. Pretty wild stuff. And speaking of evolution, I know Blavatsky had some pretty unique ideas about how humanity evolved. Does that tie into all of this?
Oh, absolutely. Buckle up, because this is where things get really interesting. Forget Darwin for a minute and picture this. Humanity evolving through stages of consciousness and physical forms over vast periods of time. We're talking cycles upon cycle.
Okay, so not the typical evolution story.
Not even close. Blavatsky calls these stages root races and rounds.
So, like, each root race represents a distinct chapter in human development, and these chapters are part of even bigger cycles called rounds.
You got it. We're currently in the fifth root race, by the way, but that's just a small piece of this vast evolutionary tapestry. And each of these root races evolved through 7 rounds. We're talking billions of years here.
Billions, so like way longer than even the dinosaurs were around.
Way longer. And each round represents a complete cycle of human development. Imagine civilizations rising and falling, continents appearing and disappearing all over billions of years.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So, what were these earlier root races like? And what about the rounds that came before? I have so many questions.
We'll hold on to those questions because we've got a lot more to unpack.
I can't wait. This is already so much to take in, but it's incredibly fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground just in this first part of our deep dive, from the concept of a hidden secret doctrine to Blavatsky's rather unique take on human evolution.
And we're just getting started.
Stay tuned, because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore even more of Blavatsky's cosmogenesis and see where these ideas lead us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into cosmogenesis. Before we got sidetracked with root races and rounds, remember we were talking about Blavatsky's critique of, well, how limiting she thought the purely materialistic view of the universe was.
Right. It's like she's saying there's got to be more to reality than just, atoms and molecules. Like maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes, some kind of intelligence or consciousness shaping things.
Exactly. She even tackles gravity in Cosmogenesis, which most of us just, take for granted as like a law of nature.
Oh, yeah. What'd she have to say about gravity? Didn't she believe in those elemental beings, those elemental monads being involved somehow?
Oh, yeah, those are definitely part of it. But even going back to Newton, she pointed out that he had his doubts about what gravity really was. He figured out the math, how it worked. But even he thought there could be a, quote, subtle spirit behind it all. Blavatsky kind of ran with that idea.
So instead of just objects attracting each other, she thought there was this whole other layer of reality influencing things, kind of like a hidden network running the show behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's like modern science with all its focus on, measurable stuff, material causes. It's only seeing half the picture, according to Blavatsky.
That actually kind of reminds me of some of the stuff happening in physics today, with quantum mechanics and stuff, like how observation can affect what happens, or how particles can be linked even across vast distances.
You're right. There are some interesting parallels there. Blavatsky would probably say that quantum physics is starting to scratch the surface of this deeper reality she was talking about, where consciousness and matter are intertwined. But in Cosmogenesis, she goes even further. She suggests that the universe isn't some cold, dead machine, but this vibrant, intelligent web of energy.
Okay, this is all pretty mind-blowing stuff, but I gotta ask, where did Blavatsky even get these ideas? What sources was she drawing on for this secret doctrine?
Well, she claimed to have studied ancient manuscripts, particularly one called the Book of Design. She said it was from Tibet. Now, the thing is, scholars haven't been able to verify if this book even exists or, where it came from.
So we're talking about some pretty mysterious origins here.
Mm.
But even if we don't know for sure where she got her ideas from, it's still fascinating how she brings all these different traditions together.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Blavatsky was a master synthesizer. She was pulling from Eastern philosophy, Western esotericism, even some scientific concepts of her time to create this grand, albeit very complex cosmology. And yeah, her work's been super influential, but also controversial.
For sure. I mean, some people find her ideas incredibly inspiring, while others are more skeptical.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, it's important to approach any source material, especially when dealing with esoteric traditions with a healthy dose of critical thinking. But I think there are definitely some valuable insights to be gained from Blavatsky's work, even if you don't agree with everything she says.
Right. It's about engaging with the ideas, asking questions, and seeing what resonates with you. And speaking of engaging ideas, let's circle back to Blavatsky's take on human evolution. You mentioned earlier that she proposed this whole system of root races and rounds. Can you break that down for us again?
Sure thing. Imagine this. Humanity evolving through a series of 7 root races, each one representing a distinct stage of, spiritual and physical development. And these root races, well, they unfold over even vaster cycles called rounds. It's like the entire story of humanity, told in these epic chapters.
Okay, so we're not talking about the kind of evolution that happens over a few million years like Darwin described. We're talking about timescales that are like mind-bogglingly huge.
Exactly. We're talking billions of years here. Each round is a complete cycle of human development, and within each round, you've got these 7 root races playing out. According to Blavatsky, we're currently in the 5th root race of the 4th round.
Okay, so 4 root races before us, and we're smack dab in the middle of the 5th one. What were those earlier races like? I mean, can she even tell us that?
She does offer some glimpses into these earlier races, but a lot of it is presented in this very allegorical and symbolic language. Like, each race had its own unique qualities and challenges, and they were even physically different from us. For example, she suggests that the earlier races were way more etheric, less dense, not as physically solid as we are today.
So basically, humanity's gone through some serious transformations over time, both physically and spiritually. It's hard to even imagine what those earlier civilizations might have been like.
It really is. And remember, we're just talking about the current round. Think about the vastness of those 3 rounds that came before. It's wild. Blavatsky believed that each round unfolded on a different continent, with whole civilizations rising and falling, leaving behind just little whispers and myths and legends.
Wait, so she's saying there were entire continents before the ones we know today?
Yeah, she was drawing on those ancient myths about lost civilizations, like Atlantis and Lemuria. She saw them as the remnants of these earlier root races. This idea that history repeats itself, civilizations rise and fall over vast periods. It's a pretty common theme across many cultures, not just Blavatsky's work.
It definitely makes you think about history in a whole new way.
I hate.
So if we're in the 5th root race, what are the main things we're supposed to be working on in this stage of development?
Well, Blavatsky associated the 5th root race with the development of intellect and individuality. But the big challenge, she thought, was balancing that growing mental power with spiritual wisdom and compassion. It's not just about getting smarter, it's about using that intelligence for good, for the benefit of everyone.
That makes a lot of sense, especially today. With all the advancements in technology and AI, it feels like we're at a real turning point. We got to make sure our tech doesn't outpace our ethics and, well, our humanity.
Exactly. Blavatsky was really worried about that kind of imbalance, where intellect develops without a corresponding spiritual grounding. She thought that could lead to, selfishness, materialism, and ultimately the downfall of civilizations. It's a warning that feels pretty relevant today, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's a good reminder that real progress has to involve both inner and outer transformation. We can't just focus on the outside stuff. We need to cultivate wisdom and compassion, too.
Absolutely. And Blavatsky believed that this 5th root race, our race, has huge potential for spiritual growth. She saw it as a crucial stage where humanity could really make some serious evolutionary strides.
Okay, so there's hope for us yet. But what about those sons of wisdom you mentioned before? How do they fit into this whole root race and round system?
Yeah, those guys. Well, according to Blavatsky, these advanced spiritual beings, also known as Dhyan Chohans, they kind of pop in every now and then to guide humanity along its evolutionary path. They appear at key moments, offering wisdom, inspiration, helping us to unlock our potential, that kind of thing.
So they're like cosmic mentors, giving us a little nudge in the right direction. But if they're so advanced, why not just, show up and tell us what to do? Why all the secrecy?
Blavatsky believed that direct intervention would mess with our free will and the whole natural flow of evolution. It's about guidance, not control. Think of them as cosmic gardeners, carefully tending to the seeds of our spiritual growth.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. Blavatsky's vision of human evolution is definitely not your average textbook stuff. It's this multi-layered, incredibly complex journey, but ultimately it's about unlocking our spiritual potential with a little help from these wise beings who embody, like, the wisdom of the cosmos.
And all of this is happening over these incredibly vast cycles of time, civilizations rising and falling, each one playing its part in the grand scheme of things.
It's definitely a far cry from that whole survival of the fittest idea. This feels much more hopeful, like there's a purpose to our journey, a direction we're moving towards.
And that purpose, according to Blavatsky, is about realizing our full potential, both individually and as a species. It's about aligning ourselves with those cosmic principles encoded in the secret doctrine and contributing to the evolution of consciousness itself.
This is also mind-expanding. It's like Cosmogenesis is giving us a map, a guide to understanding our place in the universe and our potential for spiritual growth.
That's a great way to put it. Blavatsky believed that by understanding the principles of the secret doctrine, we could unlock our true potential and help humanity to evolve to a whole new level.
But how do we actually access this secret doctrine? Is it like hidden in ancient texts and symbols waiting for us to decipher it?
Blavatsky thought it was more than just an intellectual system. She believed it was a living wisdom that we could tap into through intuition, meditation, spiritual practice, things like that. It's not just about reading books or decoding symbols. It's about cultivating that inner awareness, connecting with a deeper level of knowing.
So it's like a path of self-discovery, a journey of inner transformation that leads to a more profound understanding of the universe and ourselves. This makes me think of something you said earlier about Blavatsky's critique of materialism. It's like she's calling for a more holistic approach to knowledge, one that brings together science and spirituality.
Exactly. She saw the secret doctrine as a bridge between those two worlds, a way to reconcile reason and intuition, science and spirituality.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. Maybe it's a good time for a quick recap before we move on.
Sounds good. We started by looking at Blavatsky's critique of materialism and her call for a more spiritual perspective on the universe.
We talked about how she saw gravity as an effect of something deeper, and how she believed that consciousness is fundamental to reality, not just a byproduct of matter.
Then we dove back into her model of human evolution, with its 7 root races and 7 rounds, unfolding over those vast periods of time, guided by those mysterious sons of wisdom.
And all throughout our discussion, we've seen how Blavatsky brings together ancient wisdom, esoteric traditions, even some scientific concepts, to create this really unique cosmology.
It's a cosmology that definitely challenges us to think outside the box, to consider possibilities that might seem, well, a little out there at first, but could hold some deep truths about the nature of reality.
I can definitely say that my understanding of the universe has been stretched a bit today. I'm curious to see where we go from here.
Well, in the final part of our exploration, we'll dive into some of the more, shall we say, metaphysical aspects of Blavatsky's cosmology and see what her teachings might suggest about our own spiritual journey. Get ready for a deep dive into the mysteries of cosmogenesis.
Welcome back to our deep dive into cosmogenesis. We've been through a lot with Blavatsky's ideas, from materialism and evolution to that whole secret doctrine thing. It's a lot.
It really is. We've only just scratched the surface of her cosmology. It's so complex, but so rewarding to explore.
Okay, so now I'm ready to get into the really deep stuff, the metaphysical side of things. What can you tell me about Blavatsky's ultimate vision of reality? Like, what's it all about?
Well, one of the most challenging but also most profound ideas in cosmogenesis is this concept of a fundamental unity underlying everything in the universe. Even with all the diversity we see, Blavatsky argues that it all comes from a single source, everything.
Wait, so you're saying like everything is connected, even like me and that coffee cup over there?
Yeah. From the tiniest particle to the biggest galaxy, it's all interconnected, emanating from this one eternal source. She's talking about a cosmic oneness.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. If everything is ultimately one, how do we get all this diversity, all these different experiences and forms?
Blavatsky describes it as a process of emanation and differentiation. It's like, imagine a hierarchy of beings. You've got the highest spiritual entities, then these beings, then the elemental monads we talked about, and so on. All these beings play a role in this unfolding of the cosmos.
So it's like everything comes from that one source,
Yeah.
but it branches out and expresses itself in all these different ways.
Exactly. Like a giant cosmic tree with the ultimate reality as the root and everything else branching out from there, creating all the diversity we see.
I like that, the cosmic tree. So it's not just random chaos. It's like there's a plan, a pattern to it all.
Right. Blavatsky believed this process of differentiation follows a cosmic plan, guided by these, well, eternal laws.
It makes me think of fractals, those patterns that repeat themselves at different scales. Maybe the universe itself is like a giant fractal with this unity expressing itself in infinite ways.
That's a great analogy, and it fits with Blavatsky's emphasis on interconnectedness. She believed that understanding these underlying patterns, these echoes of unity, could give us a deeper insight into the workings of the universe, like how it all fits together.
Okay, that's pretty wild. But how does this translate to real life? Does understanding all this cosmic stuff change how we should live?
Blavatsky believed it could lead to a more ethical and compassionate way of life. If we truly get this idea that we're all connected, part of one big web of existence, it becomes much harder to, harm others or act in ways that disrupt the harmony of things.
So it's not just about head knowledge, it's about, like, putting it into practice.
Right. It's about living in a way that reflects this understanding of interconnectedness. It's about realizing that our choices, our actions, they have an impact on the whole web of life.
Okay, that makes sense. So if everything is connected and there are these conscious forces at work, like Blavatsky says, what does that mean for us? What's our role in all of this?
Blavatsky's answer is both empowering and, well, maybe a little scary. She suggests that we're not just passive bystanders, we're active participants, co-creators of reality. Not just our own reality, but the reality we share with everyone and everything.
Yeah, so we have that much power. Like, our thoughts and actions can actually shape reality.
That's what she believed. And that means we have a huge responsibility. If what we do and think can shape things, we better choose wisely.
It's kind of a lot to take in. It's exciting, but also makes you realize that even small acts of kindness, of compassion, can have a ripple effect on the world.
Exactly. Ultimately, Blavatsky's message is one of hope. She believed humanity could evolve to a higher level of consciousness and create a more just and compassionate world. But it takes effort. We have to be willing to work with these cosmic principles, with interconnectedness and compassion. We have to choose to do that.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've gone through some pretty mind-bending ideas with Blavatsky's Cosmogenesis.
We have, from her critique of materialism to this vision of a universe filled with conscious forces, it's been quite a journey.
And even though some of it might seem a little out there, it's also a powerful invitation to rethink how we see ourselves and the universe.
Absolutely. And as with any deep dive, it's not about just accepting everything we hear, but about engaging with the ideas, asking those tough questions, and figuring out what resonates with us. It's the exploration that matters.
Well said. Before we wrap up, I want to encourage everyone listening to check out Cosmogenesis for themselves. Dive into these ancient concepts. See what sparks your curiosity, what makes you think.
Yeah, don't stop exploring. Keep asking questions and keep diving deeper into the mysteries of the universe and yourselves.
That's a perfect way to end things. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Cosmogenesis. Until next time, keep exploring.